नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ साईराम।
ॐ भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ भर्गोदेवस्वहा तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः।
Om Sri Sai Ram.
Salam.
Welcome to Integrated Consciousness 2. This also I just got 11 minutes ago. Integrated Consciousness 2. So now we are mainly attempting to be integrated. When are we not integrated? When our mind goes to the unconscious or subconscious mind. But when our mind goes to consciousness, it becomes integrated. So it's just a matter of turning right or left your mind. Your mind is with consciousness. There's no unconscious, there's no subconscious. There's no conscious also. This is a bit tricky. If there's no conscious, where's your mind? This is a bit tricky. Conscious, let's leave it for last. Unconscious is easier. Subconscious may be easier. Yeah, so now your mind, which direction is it? Is it at the subconscious mind or the unconscious mind, or is in consciousness? Yeah. So this is the trick. Yeah? This is what we are attempting to do, to learn and practice to be constantly in consciousness. Why should we do that? Why? For what? When you're in consciousness, you're no longer subject to the whims and fancies of the unconscious or the subconscious. The whims and fancies of the subconscious and unconscious can take lifetimes. So now we are in the process of the Great Awakening. We are in the process of becoming consciousness beings. So we have been naturally guided to have this topic. The universe himself comes to share. He sends his people, he sends his materials, he sends his spacecraft just to lift up our consciousness. Okay? So today we have Sister Sandhya, who will be sharing with us her learning of consciousness. Yeah, of consciousness. So it's always good because consciousness is like the ocean. The rivers, many rivers flows to the ocean. So it's good to see the point of view of another river, okay, which is very near, which is at the bank already. We are at the mouth of the river going into the ocean. So it's always nice to enjoy that, that part of merging into the ocean. Okay. Sister Sandhya, are you there?
Yes, Sairam, Brother Julius, I'm very much here.
Yes.
Can I request to be a co-host? So I have a few slides then that I can share.
Sure. It's done.
Oh, thank you. So Sairam, everyone. Good morning. It's morning, 4 o'clock for me, and good evening, everyone else, or good night, whatever the time is. And I, first of all, offer my pranams at the lotus feet of Swami, and I pray that he think through me and speak through me, and I'm his instrument, and I will relay whatever he wants me to relay today. And I usually start any conversation by creating a maypole for people that know Phyllis Crystal's work, and Phyllis Crystal was also one of Swami's devotees, and he approved her work for helping heal people. And let us all sit comfortably. Please close your eyes. Imagine a long pole, like a flagpole, with a sphere of light on top. And this is the Supreme Consciousness. And from it, there are different colored ribbons running. And you can pick imagine any ribbon, colored ribbon that you like, pick it. And let's connect ourselves to this Supreme Consciousness. And by doing so, we are also connecting each other through our hearts so that we may enjoy this session in camaraderie, and we speak through our heart, and there is harmony and peace in our discussion. Thank you. So what does Brother Julius want me to talk about today? The reason I'm going to be speaking is I'm a medical doctor. And in addition, I am now doing my PhD in quantum science, and that's the science I like to say links the physical world and the spiritual world, and it gives us meaning, and it gives us explanations, and it gives us scientific proof that the world of spirit, the spiritual world, does exist, and what and it does in so many ways. And I'm only going to discuss concepts that are relevant to us it's such a vast topic and a lot of physics involved, which we do not need. But I just want to talk about the things that are relevant to us. In fact, like I was talking with the European group yesterday, the first mention of quantum science is actually in Rudram, in the 9th Anuvaka of Rudram, where we say, Urvyaya cha Surmyaya cha Nama. So Urvi is earth, Surmi is wave. So the earth is the gross form, Surmi is the subtle form, and it says the supreme effulgence, so Rudram, as you all know, calls God supreme effulgence. So it is there in both in the grossest of the gross and the subtlest of the subtle. So now we are already coming to a quantum principle. The smallest of the small is called quantum. And the entire cosmos is an interplay of Shiva and Shakti. Shiva, which is consciousness in our new parlance, and Shakti, which is the energy. So Shiva is considered the potential energy, and Shakti is considered the kinetic energy, that energy that is already there. So anything that is created is formed by energy or Shakti, the Divine Mother. And how does that happen? Energy is coming here in this situation as the form of waves. And it's actually, this Anuvaka is actually explaining it. So the energy is in the form of waves. Gradually, the waves get closer and closer to each other. And then the 5 elements of nature are formed. The space, that is the Akasha, Vayu, all the 5 elements that we know of. And the grossest element is the earth element. So all these are formed with inbuilt Shiva consciousness or the Atma in each one of them. So this is the earliest mention of quantum science that we know of. So who are we, and what is this world? What's our reality? So there are different ways of looking at it. And I think for those that are scientifically bent and for people that need proof, there's nothing wrong with it, actually. So quantum science is the way to go. And it doesn't call God or the divine effulgence as such, and it calls it by the name of consciousness. So that is what supreme consciousness, that's the name that is given to this divine effulgence or God. And there's such a similarity between how quantum science perceives and what our ancient rishis in India saw 5,000 years ago. They thought of reality or our world or a human being made of 5 different layers. And I think all of you know what I'm referring to, the koshas. And the quantum science, and quantum science also thinks of it in a similar manner. And this is how it corresponds. The first layer is the physical layer. It's the Annamaya Kosha, which is the external experience. All other layers are internal experiences. And quantum science helps navigate through this darkness. You know, a lot of times we watch spiritual videos, we read books, and then it just stays there. So there is a terminology for this too. Everything has a term and everything has a name these days. It's called P-robot, the philosophical robot. P stands for philosophical. So we need to get past that. We need to absorb the information that we have. We need to see what proof we have if we want to. And then we need to make our own meaning based on the situation we are in, based on what meaning we make of it. So this is all our personal experience. So starting with the 5, no, before we go to the koshas, here's one thing I want all of us to do. This is a visualization exercise to feel consciousness. I hope all of you are with me. You're all seated comfortably, I hope. Please close your eyes. Pay attention to your body, your entire body, and then squeeze your breath. Squeeze your body. Squeeze it tight, really tight, tight, tight. Take a deep breath and let go. Let's do it one more time. I hope your eyes are closed and you're comfortably seated. Again, bring your attention or your focus on your body. Squeeze all your muscles tight. Take a deep breath as much as you can and let go. Next, what I want you to do is imagine your loved one. Imagine the people that you love the most. Then think of other people in your family, your immediate family members. Bring in that feeling. Then imagine your neighborhood. Imagine your city. Next, your state. Then imagine your country. Imagine that you're sending love to the entire beings in your country. Next, imagine that you're sending love to the entire world. And let this feeling of love next encompass entire creation that you can see and that which you cannot see. So can anyone say how it felt to do the first part and then the second part? I hear no, and I hope you have not slept during the process. How did it feel when you took your breath in a contracted, when you contracted all your muscles, and then after you sent out love?
You feel expansion.
Yes, yes, that is true. And that is how consciousness feels. You know, if you're just thinking of yourself, you must have felt when you tightened your muscles and let go, it didn't feel that good. But when you brought in, and the first one was your you were actually focusing only on your body at the time. And then when you tried the same process, instead of constricting and focusing on your body, when you try to send love to other people, there's a sense of lightness, there's a sense of expansion. So that is how consciousness feels when we expand ourselves. You know, thank you for that. So coming back to this reality, and according to the Upanishads, there are 5 koshas, like we said, and quantum science calls this the 5-layered cake. We have a fancy name. It's not an official name, but this is the name we like to give. So the first layer is the Annamaya kosha. For those that know Sanskrit or familiar with Indian terms, they would know. This is the physical body. Anna is the food. So the food that we eat goes and accumulates in our physical body. So it's the first layer. And it's an experience that we feel outside of us. You can see things, you can see objects, I can see you, I can see the picture, I can see the chair. So this is the first layer. When you go deeper, you come to the next layer. And you know, all these were discovered 5,000 years ago by the rishis. You know, there was this rishi son who asked his father, "What is reality?" And the father, you know, in olden times, rishis were the greatest. You know, they were the seekers of truth or the seers of truth. But we in modern science can call them actually researchers of consciousness, which is what they were. They found out for themselves and they experienced for themselves. So the son, he tells the son, go meditate and then come back, tell me. So the son, when he starts to meditate, he thinks, reality is my body. This is what I am. And he comes back and tells his father. And then the father says, yes, that's true, but meditate more and think about it. So now the son, the little kid goes and then he meditates and he realizes, I feel a certain energy in me. That's the vital energy. He didn't call it the vital energy. I'm calling it by that name in quantum science. So it's the prana. He comes back to his father and says, I know it's the energy that is there within me. And this is the prana, or the prana is nothing but vital energy. So the father sends him back, and this time, after more deep meditation, he comes to the conclusion that the reality is mind, the vehicle with which we think and which we explore meaning of different things. This is the manomaya kosha, the mind, the kosha or the sheath of the mind. So the kid thinks, this is it. This is the final thing. This is reality. And then the father tells, this is also true, but go back and think more, and you'll see the truth. This time, after even deeper meditation, the boy realizes there is one more layer to it, one more reality, which is deep within us, which is the world of intuitions. And we call this the Vijnanamaya Kosha from ancient days. So Vijnana is science, and this is coming from the wisdom of science, and this is coming from the world of intuitions. You know, so and this is where the context or the connection between matter and energy are made. So the intuition gives us the laws and the values to live by, and it's made of the highest context or values of feeling and thinking. So the child comes back thinking, this wisdom or these laws or values are it. That's the final. And he comes back to tell his dad. And the father says, yes, that is also true. That is also part of us. But go back, think some more. And now he goes back. He's perplexed. What else is there to my reality? And then as he meditates deeper and deeper, he realizes the ultimate reality is one and only one. And it has a joy that has no boundaries. So when we reach here, that is it. And we know it. At that point, you don't need any explanation. You do not need anyone to approve and say, yes, this is true. You know it for certain. And you don't need a guru or guide to confirm. You just know. And this is the final Anandamaya Kosha. This is the kosha where is boundless joy, the fifth layer, and which is where the ego goes beyond. And when it goes beyond, we discover the big I, which Brother Saha talked about yesterday, which is scientifically called the quantum self. So let me show you a picture of this how the koshas look. So this was supposed to be my first slide. I forgot to turn on quantum science, spirituality, and consciousness. So this is how the koshas look. We all know the physical body, right? And then the brown or the orange color that you see is the layer of the vital energy. And then it goes all around the body. My picture is incomplete. It goes all around the body. And then you can see the light blue, right? So that is the third layer, or the Manomaya Kosha. And then you have the little darker shade of blue, which is the Vijnanamaya Kosha, the area where all our intuitions reside, the area where we get our thoughts or feelings, everything from our intuitions. And finally, the bliss body, which you see in purple. And remember, Sister Latka sent out the color of the divine, the purple color, the purple energy. So this is the quantum self, or the Atma. So this is our reality. And we are always we have this illusion that we are only the physical body, but because that is what we see. But there is so much more that the physical eye cannot see, but what you can feel actually, and you can sense. And so these are the different layers. So what then is truth or reality? We talked about all these layers, and they're all true. But as you know, the physical body lives for a few days and then it dies. So if it's not permanent, it cannot be absolute truth. So the only thing that remains is consciousness, or the Atma. So this is the little consciousness that we have all received. Everything in creation has the Shiva Tattva in all of us. So now I hope you can actually imagine what the Shiva Tattva is. So this is the only thing that remains and merges back into the divine consciousness, or the universal consciousness, the big consciousness. So quantum science says it is present. This consciousness is present in the smallest of the small, and it is ingrained, and the Shiva consciousness, or the spirit, or the Shiva Amsha, is embedded in everything that is created. So this is our doorway to oneness. And as we move, as we continue our sadhana and go deeper and deeper and discover everything that is there in the conscious, that is there to know about consciousness, we expand our consciousness. So like we did in the expansion exercise, you could feel that lightness. You could feel when you think of others, and when you love others, when you send love to others, you can feel that expansion, like one sister said. And then when you feel that, we are more happy. And then it also increases our ability to include others in our plans, in our life, in our thinking. So when we are able to include other beings, that makes us even more joyful. And when our consciousness expands in this way, we are more capable of helping or serving the needy. So you see, there is a scientific basis for everything. And let's continue on this scientific journey to discover consciousness. So what's the ultimate goal? What happens if your consciousness expands? So when consciousness expands, then we start thinking outside of ourselves, and then we start to transform ourselves. When we transform ourselves, people around us see that there's a change or difference in us, and then they are motivated to make those positive changes themselves. And then what are we doing? We are transforming the world. And so there is a movement currently going on in part of the scientific community of quantum physics, which is a part of the big bulk of physics. And that movement is called quantum activism. So now, what is our reality? It is what we experience, right? We cannot discount that the physical world is absent. We cannot say, no, that's all an illusion. That is not true. The physical world also exists. So there are two parts to our reality, actually. There is the external world, or the physical world, which is public. And it is something that someone else can see and say, yeah, I agree with you, I see it. right? So it's all that contains in the external world, which is matter that is there, which is moving in space and time. So anyone can see it. For example, if you see, say, if you encounter a lion or a tiger, you're going with your friend, you're hiking, you see a lion or a tiger, then what happens? Both of you see it. So that's an experience which is external. You both see it and agree that it's the lion. But then what happens? One of you feels an awe. Oh my God, this is how graceful is it? How amazing is it? And then the other one feels fear. So that is an internal or a private experience. And that experience is provided by the mind. And your experience, you can see how your experience can be different from what someone else feels. So the reality is both what you see outside and what you create in your mind inside, right? So there should be some way of connecting it. And spirituality, the early spiritual field couldn't explain the two, and the scientific field could not explain it. And they didn't want to explain because they don't want to think about things that are intangible, things that are related to the mind. They just said, oh, it's all in the mind, it's not important. So that was the answer of traditional science or traditional physics, or material physics as we call. But then quantum physics came forward to link the two and said, yes, the external and the internal are important for our experience to be complete. And how can we link these two? These are totally different domains. And how can we link these? And again, it's not a recent concept. This concept was discovered by the rishis 5,000 years ago. These consciousness investigators. And they brought about the concept of monistic reality. Mono is single, the reality is single, which they said is the Brahman. They called this reality or the absolute truth the Brahman. And the qualifications of this reality are represented by Satchidananda, existence, truth or existence, Chit or awareness, and Ananda is joy. So they said, everything is Brahman. This is one of the Upanishadic Mahavakyas, very important. Sarvam Khalvidam Brahman, the rishis declared. After it, they had a creative insight. It's not like they, went looking outside. They meditated, and one of them had this insight that everything is the supreme effulgence. Everything is Brahman. And what do we call it in science now, in modern language? Brahman is the supreme consciousness. So according to quantum science, what is consciousness? Consciousness is the ground of all being. It's the foundation. It is what is there in everything. Everything that you experience, everything that you see, you don't see, and it pervades everything. It is the absolute reality. So everything that is made up of matter and experience, all of which contain this supreme consciousness, or an amsha, or a little fragment of this consciousness. So, if we continue in the vein of just thinking about the physical world as being the absolute reality, I think we're bound to suffer. What do? We think that there is this one life. All we have is the body is the reality. We make money, we enjoy life. There are moments of happiness, there are moments of sadness. It's a roller coaster ride, right? And we behave like a robot, and then one day we die. But that's no way to live, and that's not the entire truth. And so what do we need to do? We need to realize the absolute truth, and realize that there is consciousness that is present in every single one of us. And quantum science is called the physics of possibilities. So this is where it talks about consciousness in this manner. There is the world which we don't see, which is high above. This is the world of potentiality. There are potential things or possible things that can happen. which is there. And then there is this other world of actuality where things have already happened, where we are all seen, we are felt. It's the physical world. And because consciousness includes both matter and the physical world and the world of potentialities, this forms our link. So consciousness forms the link between the two. And it talks of objects. It can be on all these potential possibilities exist in the form of waves. Remember what we talked about in Rudram, Anuvaka, that everything is a wave. And then when we see something or experience something, these waves come together, they all come, and the Shakti energy makes it happen into an actual thing. Do you understand this? So then it becomes a reality for us. So who is doing this? Who is choosing this? If I see something, is it me or the little me that makes this impression? Or is there something else? In simple life and in physical life, we feel that we are making the choice. For example, you go to an ice cream store and you want to pick an ice cream. It's very easy. You're making the choice. You don't need consciousness to do that. But when there are other things, bigger things going on, it's the consciousness that chooses. And how does it make a choice? Now comes the physicists had to think, how does it even make a choice? What does it pick from? So it's very easy to, to think of consciousness making the choice when we remember that it's oneness. Everything is consciousness. It includes you, and it includes things that are visible, that have become a reality, and it includes the potential world too. So it has the capability to pick from itself. It doesn't need anything. And actually, John Newman was the one that introduced the concept of consciousness to physics. And then there was the beginnings of understanding the nature of physics. So they said it's very easy for consciousness to pick choices because it is picking from itself. And when that happens, it doesn't take time. When you want to experience something, or when you're about to experience something, there is no time delay at all. You experience it right away. And why does that happen? Because everything is consciousness. It's making a choice from various choices of itself. And when it is picking something, it is sending, it doesn't have to send a message. It's almost like sending a message to itself. So do you think that would take time? It's not like me sending a message to somebody else. We need a link for it. It takes time to travel. It needs to follow certain speed limits, which is the maximum speed limit is the speed of light. But the messages take, or rather, the minimum speed limit is the speed of light, and the messages take some time. But in this world, when consciousness is choosing our experiences or what we need to experience, it happens instantaneously, and it doesn't need any signals at all. And this is the beauty of the explanation that quantum science gives us. And when you think of it, it extends beyond the choice that consciousness can make. So it's very important for us to realize this nature of consciousness, which is that there is us. Within us, you have the ego self, and then you have the conscious, the Atma self. Okay, the ego self with the small letter I. And can you see this? I don't know how this is projecting. I tried to do my best. So the ego self and the quantum self, we need to know the difference between the two, because it helps us work wonders if we work through our Atma self. So the ego self is very limited. It can only think in a linear fashion. I remember somebody, saying the first day that we had the consciousness session, how do you explain this? I can only think in a linear fashion. I cannot think in an abstract fashion. So that is what the ego self can do. That is all it can do. It can reason. It can only think linearly. It just thinks for itself, and it can only communicate with itself, and it's very, very personal. And when it forms relationships, it's always hierarchical, which means that I am the boss and you have to listen, kind of a thing. Whereas if you work through the quantum self has many capabilities. It can be very creative, and synchronicity occurs here. And it is not linear at all. It takes in the entire picture. It includes the abstract picture too. And then when it links, it gives equal opportunity for the person that links. And it is interlinked in such a way that it is dependent on the other one. So there are immense capabilities that the quantum self has. And it's important for us to recognize this so that we can function better. And when we act through our Atma self, there are moments when there's a sudden insight. You're actually doing something. This, I'm sure it has happened to certain people too. They are thinking of something or doing something, and suddenly there's a thought comes out of the blue. It is not even linked to what you're thinking. And that happens when you are thinking and acting out of your quantum self or the big I, because this quantum self is linked to the immense universal consciousness with all its potentialities. And when you link yourself to that, you allow consciousness to choose for you. It chooses your experiences. It knows what is best for you and what's best for humanity in general. So it always chooses what's the best in the situation. And then when you get that insight, it's almost like you get that instantaneous thought or instantaneous idea, which I'm sure many have experienced, since all of us are in the spiritual path. And that situation is called a quantum leap. So that can be scientifically explained too, your intuition or the sudden thought that you get. This is the Bohr's picture of an atom. This is the nucleus, and you can see the electron. So what the electron, they have discovered that the electron, if it wants to move from one orbit to another orbit, it doesn't go through this. It doesn't go in a vehicle through all this space. It's here one moment, the next moment it's in the other orbit where it needs to be. So it jumps. Okay, this is called a quantum leap, which is what happens with our intuitions and with our thoughts. So I think I'm giving a lot of information, right? So this potential world was also discovered, or rather, it was, there were 3 scientists who came with it, with that concept, and one of them is Einstein. Most of you know Einstein, but he didn't want to accept this quantum concept. He didn't want to accept consciousness. It was hard for him to do that initially. But then when he accepted, then it was easy to realize we have all these choices in the form of waves. If we let the consciousness choose for us, the best thing happens. And then what happens? The best choice or experience becomes a reality for us. And that is when it becomes a particle. So in the quantum world, everything exists in either the form of waves or particles. And since God is everything, he's in the particle, he's in the wave. We talked about it in Rudram. So it's very easy for God to manifest that experience for us. He doesn't need time to do that. He doesn't need any prodding. He doesn't need to think, okay, what choice do I choose right now? So we talked about how consciousness chooses all these choices. So as you can see, the choices that we have are the ones that we have already experienced. And there are other choices that is there potentially waiting for us to discover. And this is the unmanifest potentiality. And this is the world which is known as unconscious. This is the world which is known as unconscious world, unconsciousness. Something that is waiting to be discovered. Carl Jung, the greatest psychologist, called unconscious all that is suppressed and oppressed memory, and the collective unconscious as well. But now the term unconscious includes whatever is in the potential world, which is not yet manifest, and whatever is in our memory, which is suppressed, and whatever is in the collective, or the collective is us, all of us, unconscious. And if you remember Brother Julius's iceberg, picture that we saw a couple of days back, when he talked about how to embrace the unconscious. So the unconscious is the total iceberg. What you see is just the portion that is peeping out, and the rest is underwater, waiting to be discovered and waiting to be acknowledged. So I want to talk to you about how consciousness makes this choice. There's too much physics, and I think it will be a little too much to talk about how consciousness makes the choice manifest. That would be too much, I think. So what is the role of this consciousness? In fact, it is also something that links our physical body with all the other koshas. That's the common denominator for the links between the various koshas. And it's been discovered and proven that the vital and the mental body actually behave in a quantum manner, which means that we have the capability to be creative. It can get linked to another instantaneously. That's a very important property. And in fact, even big matter, you won't believe, big matter like the chair and table can also behave in a quantum manner, but as things accumulate size and mass, it behaves more as a particle than as a wave. So it's very hard to make it out. You won't believe if I said, even this table or a chair that you're sitting on is moving, but it would take millions of years for you to actually perceive it. So it's very easy to perceive thoughts, because thoughts and the vital energies, those are things that are more tangible that you can think about, and those behave in a quantum manner. And when the physical body gets linked to it, we in the physical body also behave in a similar manner. So what does that mean for us? So it means that we have the property of, if we are thinking through our quantum self, we have the property of communicating with each other instantaneously. How awesome is that? You can communicate, you can think of something, and the other person, if the two of you are spiritually linked in the same way, you are in the same field, if you are at the same level or a level beyond, one person thinks a thought and the other person is able to perceive it. And this has been proven scientifically as well. For example, someone touched that, you and your friend can do this experiment. He or she lives in a distant place. He touches a cactus. The person that is correlated or linked with you can feel the pain. So this brings us into the concept of how messages can be sent. When Brother Julius says, I received a message, you know how this message is being sent now. It's instantaneous. Brother Julius is correlated with the people, with the higher beings. And so are some of the people who get these messages. This is how telepathy works. This is how channelers work. So now we have proof of that as well. And how do we use it? For those of us who are on this path, we purify ourselves, and Rudram is giving us the way to it, the path to it. We purify ourselves by, turning our senses inwards. Don't look for outside worldly pleasures, but look inwards. Make your thoughts, make your feelings pure. And when you do that, and when you look inwards, you are able to work or function from this Atma self. And when you do that, and two people who are functioning in the same manner, you decide to link each other's mind, you can do that, and you can send those messages, or you think something, the other person gets the thought right away. And in fact, I should say, it happened as a recent example to me, and I do not know if Branimir will like this or not, but I had told him that day there was one session, the Rudram, Living with Rudram session that we were doing. And I thought today I should explain the meaning of why do we chant the 3 ohms. And what happened? He started the chanting, and that day he decided, we had not even talked to each other, he decided to discuss the meaning of the 3 ohms as a part of the introduction. So everything happens in an instant when you are correlated spiritually. And when you do that, you're able to communicate with higher beings and get information, get advice from these people. So that is very, very, very important. So the science of consciousness also tells us the purpose. Why do we have all these potentialities? At this stage in our evolution, the evolutionary purpose of consciousness is to make sure that all of us evolve and embody all these values. For example, truth, love, beauty. And then, is this my cue to stop? Someone is playing the piano. So the purpose of consciousness and the purpose of evolution is for us to realize all these values. There are 9 values, and I won't go into those 9 big values. Some of the examples are love, truth, and beauty. And until we realize these values, until we experience these values to the fullest potential, we keep taking birth. And the human birth is the only way you can experience it. So now you realize why it is important to pay attention to this birth. Animals and other plants, they do not have the capability to experience this. So, and there are souls that are waiting to take human birth so they experience to the fullest extent, and then they're done with their life journey or the soul journey or the karma, and then they are gone. They want to be liberated. So let's make use of this life's journey. And how do we experience these values? We can use, if you work from the higher self, consciousness makes those choices for you. You get more creative. What does it mean by being creative? You get the ideas as an intuition, and you'll realize, this is not mind thinking, and you can clearly make out the distinction. So we need to explore and experience all these values, and Plato called these archetypes, which is what we call in quantum science too. And when we are finally done with the exploration, we stop reincarnating. So there is proof for reincarnation in quantum science as well. So we reincarnate repeatedly until we become better and better people, and we embody these values. And that is called the development of the soul. And we talked about it briefly yesterday. I said how we make soul plans. We make these plans even before we are born. And one of the souls says, okay, you want to learn about truth, so I'm going to be born along with you, or maybe a little later I will join you on your journey, and I'm going to be the bad person, and I'm going to show you what it means to be truthful. So you see, there's no one to blame ultimately when you realize this is what happens. That person is sacrificing for your sake. So that soul is sacrificing for your sake. So we make these soul plans, and we have this soul journey, and we have several lifetimes like this. And once the journey is complete, we realize we are the universal consciousness, or we are the amsha of the universal consciousness, and that is it. We don't need to be born anymore. So you may wonder why we have, why our experiences are so different. Like we talked about in the example where you and your friend are walking and you see a lion. Both of you experience it differently, and that is because the physical stimulus is the stimulus is the same, the physical experience is the same, but what happens is your vital, the feeling and the thinking is so different in each person. So what you experience is not going to be my experience. So, and now you can realize why you can think, why the other person doesn't understand you. You sometimes wonder, your own partner or your spouse, You're both looking at the same thing. You're both going through the same thing, but your experiences are different because it is colored by how you think and how you feel. And for each person, it comes with a baggage. My baggage is what I have brought along with me from previous births. And his baggage is what he has brought along with him. And so our experiences can be so different. And so going back to other layers, I wanted to say how there is validity. Science has validity to, we talked about experiences, we talked about the physical body, how science links the physical body with the other layers. And we come to the vital energy body. So again, it's not all nonsense. It is, I think I forgot to make this into a full screen. Is it showing up as full screen, or you're seeing part of the screen? Is it projecting okay?
Okay.
Yeah. So next, coming to the vital body, you would think that all this is only spirituality. Science has no place for this, but that's not true. Quantum science has now validated the vital energy field, or the chakras, which are vital energy centers. Before we delve into the vital energy, I want us to do one other experience or experiment. All of you keep your palms together. Start rubbing your palms.
Hello.
Yeah.
In view options, we can go to full mode. I think someone is telling it is a.
Yeah. I haven't done that. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah. Thank you for reminding me. Thank you. So close your eyes. Bring your palms together. And then rub them. Keep rubbing your palms. You feel the heat, right? Keep rubbing. Now bring them apart a little bit, maybe a couple of inches. Pay attention to what you feel. Let's do it one more time. Bring your palms together. Close your eyes. Rub your palms a few times. And now bring your palms apart. So what do you feel? I'll have to unmute you now. Can anyone unmute themselves and say what they feel, what they felt?
Sairam, I could feel like I was holding some tangible energy, like something that sort of doesn't let your palms touch each other again, like there's something there. You're holding
Correct.
something. Yeah.
Yes, that is your vital energy. That is your vital energy. So that is there all around your body, surrounding you. So that is your vital energy that you're feeling, that tingly feeling that you have, like tingles, and as though there is something going on in between. And as you work to keep this stronger, as you work through your chakras and the purification process, and there are various ways of doing it, and I'm not going to go through it, that energy is going to get stronger and stronger. And when you bring your palms apart, even quite a distance, you can still feel it. One can still feel that energy going on. So there is There's no physical proof. There is no anatomical proof. Nobody has dissected the human body and said, this is where the chakras reside. This is where your Muladhara is. So these are the main ones. There are several other chakras, and Sister Vlatka was talking about the chakras in the knee and the transpersonal, etc. So there are various chakras, but these are the most important ones that are there. So, this is the Muladhara. Then the second one is Swadhisthana, Manipura, Anahata, and then Vishuddha, Vishuddhi, Agnya Chakra, and over and above the head is the 1,000-petaled Sahasrara Chakra. Yeah, that is correct. So now we know that these are the energy centers, and the ancient rishis knew about these centers. These are nothing but the nerves, where there's a collection of nerves and the energy flows through them. And each of these, and quantum science now has found proof to this, these are all linked to a particular organ. They are in relation with it. How does it happen? When we are born, there is the physical body, and then when we are born, and it's amazing to think about how a human body or human being is born. So when I'll come to that a little later. And so these are linked to certain organs, and they're energetically linked. There is no physical link that goes, there's no fiber or there is nothing. It's not that. It's linked through the nerves. It's not like a channel. It's through nerves and energetically linked to organs, certain organs. The bottom one, and it corresponds to the elements too. The solid element, the water element, and then the Agni element. It's amazing how you can bring a link from the outside to the inside world. So the lowermost one is linked to the elimination organs. And when there is a blockage, and when it is not functioning properly, that is when we experience fear. If there is equilibrium, if both are balanced, then we are rooted in things. We have that, we are grounded in what we do. But if there is a blockage, then you can see that we are always afraid. We do not want to take chances. We don't want to take risk. So this is how the chakras function at different levels and what they control. The second chakra controls the genital organs or the reproductive organs. The third chakra, the Manipura, controls the liver and the stomach. So if it is functioning well, you are self-confident, you feel worthy of yourself. If this isn't working, then you feel unworthy, you feel you're useless, you don't have any capability. The Anahata Chakra, like what everyone thinks, is linked to the heart, and that is related to the feeling of love. But when quantum physicists or scientists started thinking about it, they realized the heart has nothing to do with love, actually. Its job is just to pump blood. But what's more important, and I want to bring this, I'm going to highlight only this because I feel like it's important for us. It's linked to thymus. And thymus is an organ of immune system. It's one of the immune system organs. So what does it do? Its job is to see what is self, what is itself, and what is not itself. So anything that it's not itself, it tries to kill. It sends out these killer cells. So if a bacteria or virus were to enter your body, it detects that and it kills it. So that's the job of the thymus. So what happens when you are filled with when your heart chakra is filled with love, it is expanded. When you're expanded in oneness, it sends the message to the thymus and says, these people, these fellow spiritual people, or these people around me, they are also me. I am one with them. And then what does it do? All right, I don't need to work. I don't need to send my killer cells. I'm done. So it takes rest. And this is a much needed rest. All organs need it. The brain needs it, and the heart especially needs it. Both of them are working 24/7, so they need it. The brain, the chakras of the brain, which is the third eye, and the sahasrara, they get their rest when we sleep. But when does the heart chakra get its rest? It's constantly working. So the only time it gets rest is when we are expanded, when we have that love for others, when we feel one with others. And when we give rest to this chakra, that is when it wakes up invigorated, and then it can function all the more better. If it works constantly, what happens is then it's always working, and then it fails to, it becomes weak, it doesn't become efficient, it doesn't work effectively. Then if there is, we need to remember our body produces abnormal cells, but the thymus or other immune system organs constantly look out for them and they stop them, they kill them. But when the organ is overworking, it's not going to be able to do that. So it doesn't recognize those cells. Those cells, abnormal cells, divide uncontrollably. And that's what results in things like cancer. The very same concept is involved in autoimmune conditions too, where the body fights against its own cells. So you realize how important it is. When you feel expanded, you create health for yourself. So now we have a scientific basis for this as well. Then the way I'm doing it is I'm just picking up some concepts and sharing those concepts which are relevant to us. So this has no particular order that I'm talking about. Now I want to actually go back to what it means to work from your quantum self. What does it mean when you're working from your quantum self, and why we need to do this? What's the reason? Why do we need to function from this self? When we function from the ego self, we said it's very selfish. But when we function from the quantum self, we feel love, we expand our heart, we feel the oneness, and we can communicate with other people instantaneously. We can get ideas. So this is very important for us, for our creativity and development and spiritual growth and growth of the soul. I would like to share this story of the difference when we act from the ego self and from the quantum self. Once there were two Zen monks who were trying to cross a river. It had rained very heavily. It was very muddy. The river was not very deep. It was shallow. So they were about to cross the river, but then they see a maiden who is in beautiful clothes, and the clothes are coming all the way to the ankle, and she was hesitating. They didn't actually observe her, but then they could sense that there was somebody, and that somebody was hesitating to cross. So one of the monks takes her permission and to help her, and then she nods her head. He picks her up and he crosses the river by holding her and puts her down on the ground and starts walking. The second monk catches up with him after some point, and they keep walking. Half an hour later, he cannot hold it anymore. He tells the first one, "Brother, you did something wrong right there. You know that, right? We are monks and we're not supposed to touch women, let alone carry them. And you carried her for 5 full minutes, and you held her so close." So the first monk turns to him and says, "Brother, I carried the maiden for 5 minutes, but it appears that you're still carrying her in your mind. It's not gone. So how did this happen?" So if the first monk, he worked from his quantum self. He got the intuition, or he could sense that the maiden was in need of help. He just did what he had to do. He thought it was his duty. He did it and he was done. But what did the other monk do? He was not thinking from his higher self. So what happened? The thoughts kept coming back and coming back and coming back. It wasn't leaving him. It was bothering him. This is what happens to us when we think through our ego self. We have all these thoughts. There's that immediate reaction.
and then we overthink. If someone talks to you or says something, you say, oh, this person said this. Why did they say this? How could they say this? And it goes on. And that's all because we think from the ego self. So we need to move away from that and think more from our quantum self, and then we can our experiences can be better. Life experiences can be better.
Can I share a similar thing, Sanya?
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah. I also heard a story like there was two persons. One person was very doing tapa, japa, like he was a rishi.
Mm-hmm.
And other person was a lady who was a prostitute. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So these two persons were seeing each other, like crossing the path when they are going or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And this person who is doing japa was
Mm-hmm.
thinking of that girl as a bad.
Mm.
But that person who is actually portrayed as a bad, she was always thinking of this Muni.
Yeah.
And she was always thinking of being higher
Mm-hmm.
and to attain God. So
Mm-hmm.
even though the Muni was doing all the tapa and japa, his
Mm-hmm.
thinking was lower. His thinking was like
Correct.
that. But she, who is at the lower level, was actually thinking higher. So, or actually feeling higher. So it doesn't matter what we are doing, but it really matters what we feel and what we finally what I should say, picture ourselves to be.
That is so true. That is so true. Thank you for sharing that. That is so true. So the next concept that I want to discuss is intuition. I said when you behave in your quantum self, intuitions come. That is when they come. You get to be, how do they come? You get to be creative. You're allowing the big I or the Atma to choose from the immense ocean of possibilities of the universal consciousness. And suddenly you may be meditating, you may be cooking. It comes as a thought, and you know how it is. It comes as an unrelated thought. You're not even thinking about it. You just get that thought. And that is how the rishis, got all the Vedas too. So they got these thoughts, they heard these. It came as an intuition. That is why it is called Shruti, something that is heard. And whatever we get as intuition has the highest value. And for a lot of us, it is not just the thought. How do we recognize that it is an intuition? It comes with a feeling and meaning or both. And women are especially prone to feel this. I'm not talking about intuitions. I'm only talking about the feeling part, because women work more from their heart chakra, and men tend to work more from their Manipura chakra. So they are more thinking people, and so we have to balance it out. So women are more feeling people, men are more thinking. They want explanations, they want proof of things, etc. So we need to balance them out. We need to balance all our chakras to realize our full potential. And intuitions come with feeling and meaning. The thought comes with a feeling. You feel like there's a shiver in your spine. You get that gut feeling, or you feel that in your heart. And sometimes you can say, I feel it from the bottom of my heart, right? So it is an experience that you cannot explain or describe. So these intuitions come instantaneously, and these thoughts or ideas are of much higher quality. So when we operate from a quantum self, we make room for such things to happen. The creativity and intuitions are not just important for the physical world, because that's how some of these scientists got their ideas. They don't realize, even Newton, do you think he was trying to figure out how the apple fell and, okay, I'm going to make the laws of motion? No. Einstein's theory of relativity, it came as an act of creativity. It came from nowhere, out of the blue. That is a creative or an intuitive experience. And now we have proof for that in our in quantum science, and quantum physics proves it. So when we have these intuitions, these are the doorways for us to explore consciousness and spirituality and inner meaning, the inner world. So when you meditate, you slow down the thoughts. And it's been found experimentally. They have used electrodes, and they've used functional MRIs. They have found that that people that meditate have different waveforms, and the thoughts minimize. When your thoughts minimize, thoughts don't go away completely. As long as we are alive, the mind is doing its job, and the job of the mind is to think. So it's going to be doing the thinking. But when the thoughts slow down, that is when you have the window of opportunity for consciousness to put in something in your mind. And that comes as an intuition. And this has been proven by Jungian psychology too. He talked of this intuition and this phenomenon in the form of synchronicity. So I think Brother Julius talked about how it's synchronous. He gets this thought suddenly 10 minutes prior to this session or whatever. He gets this thought, and then I do not know whether he gets a feeling with it or how his intuitions come, and then he goes about doing his thing at that time. And this is synchronicity. He talks about synchronicity as well. So what does that mean? These are coincidences which are meaningful. And it consists of one element from the external world or the physical world, and one element from the internal world. And both are caused by one thing. They have one common denominator. Both are caused by consciousness. So when that happens, you realize this is probably what I need to do. Synchronicity is so important along the way for your growth. And sometimes it's important for validation. Yeah, I'm probably meant to do this. And I will say this one more time. And this happened to me recently. The first day that we were supposed to begin the session, I've even forgotten how long this was. And I think I shared it with the group when Brother Julius asked us for our experiences. So as you can tell, and as I said before, I live in the East Coast of USA. So when you begin your sessions, it is 4 a.m. for us. So that morning, when the first session was about to start, when we started our astral travels, I never knew. All those messages are sent when I'm sleeping. So I do not know what's happening in WhatsApp, and I'm happily sleeping. Suddenly I get woken up. And it's not my usual restroom call or anything like that, nature call. I just suddenly get woken up, Swami. I feel that Swami presence that is waking me up. And I wonder why I woke up. I didn't hear any noise. There is no reason. I'm not getting a bad dream. Why did I wake up? And something makes me look at my WhatsApp. And then I probably look at the top 2 ones, and then I go back to bed. I'm feeling very kind of restless, but I fall asleep somehow. This is around 3 o'clock. And again, around a quarter to 4, I get woken up again. And then this time, I try to see, is there some message? Why am I prompted? Why am I being prompted to look at the messages? And then I try to click something. And I'm also, sometimes I click these, look at messages because my parents live in India. What if they need something urgent? What if they have sent a message? So these are the thoughts that I usually get, and I try to see if there are any messages from them. But my fingers accidentally touched on the Rudram female link, and there I see Brother Chulan's notification saying quantum, what is it? I see quantum, and then I see Tibet, the quantum ascension. We were going to the Tibetan rainbow ascension. So I see that. Then immediately I log in. So I join the group. So this is synchronicity. Something is telling me this is what I need to do, and things happen. And this is for real. I didn't plan this. And the experience adds, and the suddenness and the value it brings it is amazing. And there is nothing to say when consciousness chooses for you. So that is my little spiel about synchronicity. And synchronicity can happen not just with spirituality, it can happen with romantic relationships, it can happen in medical cases too, the healing that happens. It can happen with life questions. You have a question and you send out that question to the universal consciousness. You may not get an answer right away. Don't expect it. You just send it out. Make an intention. I want to know about this. That is very important. And then send it out into the universe. And then you will suddenly get that answer. And that answer will be the truth. It has truth value to it because it is coming from the universal consciousness. So that is about intuitions that I wanted to talk to. We talked about our physical world and the relationship with consciousness. We talked about the vital world and we just explored one chakra. I don't have time to discuss all of the chakras. That's the vital energy world. And you felt the vital energy. The third thing we talked about is the land of intuitions. We talked about thinking and meditation, how it slows down, and the intuitions come from the Vijnana Maya Kosha. So when we have walked through the portals of intuition and we constantly live in the quantum self, we have the opportunity to discover that we are all one. And when we discover that we are all one, that is when we are in the flow experience. Life seems so easy. We are going with our intuition. We are going with what the universal, the divine being or God wants us to do. And you see no obstruction. Things happen very easily. And then you start discovering what it is to be one. And then you become one. So that is your Anandamaya Kosha. That is how I'm validating scientifically that whatever you're doing makes sense. So you don't need to think this is all, if your friends or your family ask, what is it that you're doing? It makes no sense. There is no proof. We only know about this one life. Now you can tell them there is much more to it. So coming to lives, we'll go to the next slide. So there is now proof for incarnation and reincarnation. So what is the purpose of consciousness? What's the purpose of the universe? It is to help us evolve and finally realize who we are. So in order to realize, we need to realize all the values. The biggest value is truth. We need to realize all aspects of truth. We may not realize or work on it or experience it in one lifetime. So what happens? We get a little bit of experience and then we die and then we go out. We are just the soul. So this soul with its experiences and memories that it has, or rather I shouldn't call memories, it's the experience that it carries. It doesn't carry the content. For example, let me say, you're exploring love in all its fields, in all its aspects. There is romantic love, there is maternal love. So you're exploring love. When you do that in a lifetime, you have learned a lot about love. You may even have come to the part where you realize love means giving unconditionally, not even expecting the other person to love you back. It's okay for them not to do that. So you take that lesson, and that lesson, the physical body dies. All that remains is your vital energy and the mental energy. That is what remains with you, along with the Shiva Amsha, the Atma. So that remains and comes out of the physical body, and that remains the experiences. So the vital body and the mental body bring in the memories of those experiences. And then your soul goes into limbo, which is when it recovers. So the experiences along with the soul, that is called a monad. The sister Vlatka was talking about monads, the brother Julius was talking about it. So this is what it is. So all the experiences or the lessons that you have learned along with your vital body and your mental body comes back. So this is karma in and karma out. So when we say karma, it doesn't carry the negative connotation. It is all the lessons that have been learned. They could be positive lessons, they could be negative lessons or experiences. So it can be anything. So you wait until you find another body. And when that right physical body is taking shape, the soul enters in. Okay, and it should be appropriate. Now you've made a soul plan. You've made a plan. All right, in this birth, I'm going to explore or experience love or more of truth. And so it goes on. You take the human birth, you pick all the experiences, good or bad, or rather negative or positive. So you should come to a time where you stop judging even these. These are just experiences. There's nothing good, there is nothing bad. Because in the ultimate scheme of things, all these are necessary for us to realize or experience it to the fullest extent. So you experience something, you experience more, then you die, and then that experience lives with you. It keeps adding on and on and on. So you can see that you take several births until you experience the archetypes or these values to the fullest extent. And thankfully, it's very reassuring to know that whatever experiences or lessons I learned in this life will go with me into next life. I don't have to redo this again and again. Okay. But if we have done something that is unfavorable, we have done something that is not in the universal good, that is when it's like a bank. Swami calls it the bank, right? We withdraw from the bank, and what is left? So we have to experience the effect of that of that kind of action, which is not beneficial to others, or it may be harmful to others. So by purifying ourselves, I'm hoping that we are experiencing life the way it is meant to be, through the quantum consciousness, which is the Atma self, which is called the quantum consciousness. And the other one is the universal consciousness. And at some point, we don't need to take this journey anymore. We are self-realized. All right. That is the journey of the monad and reincarnation. There is another concept I wanted to talk about, which has relevance to our spiritual growth, which is we have found that the brain has circuits. So it has negative circuits, negative emotional circuits, which make us, which create turmoil and make us suffer. And then there are the reward or pleasure circuits that we use. So if we were to live in the worldly way, we are constantly rewarding ourselves with food, ice cream. We are rewarding our brain. We don't know what better to do. We don't know how to make meaning of our life. Or we are constantly using these pleasures, worldly pleasures, to, find meaning in life. Or we are trying to find fault. We are trying to think of things negatively, and we go around punishing ourselves, and our mind is in a constant turmoil. So when we are trying to ascend, the power of the negative thoughts is very, very high. And there is only one way to overcome that, and that is to infuse positive thoughts. And one may think, what does that do? What does power of positivity do? Well, now neuroscience has discovered a concept called neuroplasticity, which means the brain has the power to make new connections. It has the power to carve out different paths, carve out different experiences. So you don't need to think, oh, this is the way I have been. I'm 40 years old. This is my experience. I'm already set in my ways. I can't do this. I cannot change myself. Sorry, not true. You can still change yourself. It takes some effort, but you can definitely change your thinking. So neuroplasticity is a definite thing. And that is something I wanted to say as a scientific evidence for what we need to do moving forward. I think I have come to the end of what I intended to talk, and I want to leave you all with this. This is my favorite picture. So I think this is Michelangelo's representation of the divine and the self and the human being. So you can see how we are trying to reach the divine. All our experiences, all our births are an attempt to realize that we are divine. So when we are experiencing that, we have already separated ourselves from God. We are not God. We need to reach the stage where we feel, I am God, I'm God, I'm no different from God. And this picture bothered me initially, and I realized the reason why the hands are not touching, you would think at some point they would touch, right? But they will touch. But at that point, we will reach. We will realize that we are God as well. But when that happens, there is no separation. We are not separate from God. So when we are not separate from God, there is no experience. There is no person that is experiencing. There is no object to be experienced. So at that time, we have merged in Him, and you don't need a picture to show that the hands are held because they're not separate. This is one of my favorite pictures. And now I'm happy to take questions. Or if anyone.
Can I continue that story which I left in the middle?
Sure.
Yeah. So as I saw your slide of karma, I got that again. So that person who was hating the women who was doing that thing became that, and the woman who was always thinking about this Muni, what he is doing, and always thinking about the God, she became Penny's next birth. So the thing which I learned from this story is, don't hate anyone for their doing. If you're hating, you're focusing on that part, and you will become that. So like if you're hating for her, or you're hating someone for being cruel, don't do that, because it's all comes back to us. So we have to love, and we have to focus on love alone, so that we will not end up in the cycle of the karma again and again. That much came to me, Saira.
Very, very good, Sister Rama. And that is the picture of the monad that I showed you. And Swami also says this, I think there is this story where um, I don't know if it was Joga Rao or Professor Kasturi, somebody comes and tells Swami, there is this beautiful family, Swami, that is asking for an interview. Please give them. They're such a nice couple with two nice children. And then Swami doesn't say anything. And then he comes back and asks him again the next day. And Swami says, I know they're a beautiful family, but did you know that the children were blind? So he was taken aback. Jogara was taken aback, and then he says, "No, I didn't know that." And he goes out and cross-checks with the family. That is true, but still, Swami doesn't give them the interview. And then the next day, after a few days, he comes back and asks. And then before he could even ask, Swami shows him a newspaper clipping where it talks about an event that has happened in a nearby village where a stepmother has gouged the eyes of her stepchildren. And so and Jogara was thinking, why is Swami showing me this piece of news? And I think I might be paraphrasing. I might not be relaying this message or story in its exact form, but this is the gist. And Swami, why is Swami showing me this news? And then Swami says, what do you think I would do to this mother? And no, he keeps quiet, he doesn't say anything. And then Swami says, in the next birth, I would like her to understand what it is. So I don't make her blind, I make her children blind. So there is always, so for our we have to go through the actions and the reactions and the responses for it. If not in this lifetime, in some other lifetime, many lifetimes later. So it's hard to say. You wonder why some good people always undergo bad things, why bad things happen to good people. So you never know, and that is where we need to stop our judgment.
If I talk to some spiritual gurus or they call, they say if you are feeling good now and yet you're facing the troubles, means you have done something in the past. You might be bad in the past, and that came back to you. So now you start doing good. That's what they suggest me. Even though I don't remember my past well, I accept that. I think from now is important always, and what you are or I am doing now uh, uh, comes with me more than the
Yeah.
past.
So we shouldn't judge. See, judgment brings in more negativity and more negative things, and we accumulate more negative karma. So we should never judge ourselves, but we should be kind to ourselves. That is true. Just focus on what there is. It might be that we are reaping what we did many lives ago, or it may mean that we are setting an example. That could be a possibility too. We undergo suffering. Some of the evolved beings suffer so that others may see what it is and learn lessons from it. It could be that too. So so we should never judge. So we never know.
Yeah. All the devotees of Swami usually undergo the tough situations. Even then, they hold on to Swami. That is a lesson to us too. Yes.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
Sairam, Sister
Dr.
Sandhya.
Sandhya, can I share one similar story about reincarnation, which Swami himself has told?
Yeah. Please.
Our uh, 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 the great devotee, Ramana Rao. In the 60s, when there was a news item that a dead child Swami had revived. So when they saw in the local newspapers, they got curious. They got quite curious to know how does this man do this. So four of them, they go there, and Swami says, Ramana Rao Nura, please come. He says in Telugu. Swami, you know me. I mean, how do you know me? He says, I know your past, your present, and future. Actually, there's a very, very, very. I have got only one copy of that book in Telugu. It's a Xerox copy. I wish I translate that into English. This has been my heart's yearning. It's an amazing book which will open up so many dimensions of existence. So he says, no, in your last birth, you were having two wives. Your first wife was very, very attached to you, and you were also very attached. That Mamakara. So she died, and she was born again as your eldest brother. And we can relate, those days we had 15 children, 16 children. The age gap would be some 15, 20 years. Yeah. So, and again, you had so much of attachment with your eldest brother. So he died and he's born as your youngest daughter now. But your second wife, she was so wicked. Yeah. She wanted to usurp your property. So what she did, she poisoned you and she killed you. Yeah. So if you go to this particular village the day after tomorrow, she will be doing your anniversary. That is, the Shraddha.
Yeah, Shraddha.
Yeah. The Shraddham, they say in the Shraddha. So what happens in those days, in the late 60s and early 70s, there was not great transport means of conveyance.
Yeah.
So a truck driver, after 7 o'clock, somehow he finds one, and he says, look, I want to go to so and so place, my own place. I would go get back home. Then he says, no, I'm not taking that route. I'm going on this route, and I'll drop you on the way. Maybe tomorrow morning you might get some other modes of conveyance. So he gets dropped in a particular place dead of the night at 2 o'clock. And then it's 2 o'clock, and what does he do? he goes to one of the, gets into the village. And with a typical village, you have a sleeping place outside called a veranda.
Yeah.
So he goes and lies down on one of the houses outside. The next day morning, and 5 o'clock, they wake up, they clean the front portion of the house and all that. And this old, lady comes out of the house, and she says, "Oh, you have come. Actually, today is my husband's Shraddham, and I was looking out, how I can feed somebody, and look, you have come here." And that description, what Swami had given, the name, the village, the place, the lady, the household, what all he described, it matched exactly of what Swami described. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is called Prashanti Nilayam. It was a Navodaya publication. It was not a prestige publication there.
Yeah, I too read that book, Prashanti Nilayam.
Yeah, Prashanti Nilayam. I have got a Xerox copy of that book. If I would like to share that, it's an amazing insight about reincarnation told directly by Swami.
That is true. And I want us all to take one step further. It's good to read, but what I want us to do is contemplate. It's only when you contemplate that you make your own connections. You make that link with your personal life and your personal situation, etc. And then you see, now I have the solution to my problem. Now this may be what I need to do. So that is a form of creativity. It's not, it's called situational creativity in quantum physics, or quantum science. So it is a form of creativity, but these are the kind of things that are going to help in our spiritual journey. So each time we read something, you have to stop, think. And when you dwell on that thought or dwell on that feeling, that is when you make your own meaning. And that is what we did with the European Rudram group too. It's not just enough to chant the Vedas, and it's not just enough to learn the meanings, the superficial meanings. We need to make our own meaning, and that happens when we are working from our quantum self. You can suddenly see, like yesterday, I suddenly could put a link between, when it says the ninth Anuvaka says how Shakti energy forms, it's a wave form, it forms ether, and slowly all matter that is obvious or that is in the physical world is formed. You realize the chakras are also arranged the same way, in the same sequence. The subtlest to the grossest. So the root chakra is the grossest. And what do we have to do? What are we trying to do? We are born as human beings, and now we are trying to ascend. We are going in the reverse order. We are trying to ascend from the grossest, from the root chakra. We are going to ascend, raise our consciousness all the way to the Agnya Chakra, the center for intuition. And then we realize and merge with God at the Sahasrara Chakra. And that is what I suddenly felt at that time. And this act of creativity, it is not mine at all. That thought was not mine at all. It was intuition, or it was Swami giving that thought. See how beautiful these moments are. So we need to make use of those opportunities where we read and we contemplate on them. That is the importance. I think someone else had another. I saw.
Yes, it's me, Sister Sandhya.
Yes,
Sairam, I
please.
just want to say I live in Australia, and I'm sending you a big hug. Thank you so much. It was a session. I just got home from work. I made myself a cup of soup and sat down. I'm in the ego self the whole day, and I think I only come to my quantum self in these sessions. Maybe that's why Swami has put me here. And thank you so much. I took down notes. I scribbled every little bit you told. I took pictures of the screen, and I'm going to go through it again. And thank you so much. And it's extra special because my daughter is Sandhya. So a lot of gratitude for all this information.
How sweet. Thank you. Thank you. That means a lot. There are so many concepts I wanted to talk. You won't believe it. When Brother Julius asked me how much time I need. I said, I think 20 minutes is sufficient. But when I started thinking what is relevant to our group, what would be important to our group, look how long we have gone. I kept writing and writing and writing down things. And it was just coming. It was just coming, So there is much more. There is so much more, so many other concepts.
Yeah, every time I had a question, your next slide would have answered it. So there was nothing. So I've I've got food information with me, which I'm going to digest now. I'm just going to leave the meeting because I have to make dinner for the family. But thank you, darling. Thank you so much. And Sairam to all. Thank you for this lovely session.
You're welcome. We're all in this together. Let's do it together. Let's help each other out. Each one of us has a gift, and let's share that gift. That's it.
Yeah. Sending love to you all. Bye, guys.
Yeah, I have to say, initially all felt like a theory to me. But when I keep that aside and again listen, it's all connected. Thank you, Ansairam.
Thank you.
Dr. Sandhya, you're so inspiring. Just now I told my daughter, I'll play this recording of of this, so that it will give you a higher perspective of how we have to live our lives. Thank you so much, and bless you.
You're welcome. Bless you too. Thank you.
Sairam.
Sairam.
Hello. Can I share something about the painting at the end?
Please. Please.
Tonight, thank you. It was a brilliant talk. The fingers that are almost touching, what that says to me from your talk tonight is that we don't touch from the physical body, from the Annamaya kosha, but we touch God in the other bodies, in the other sheaths, which are outside that physical reach.
Yes, we need, in order to, we have, yes, that is true. That is because the physical body, which is the gross body, it cannot behave in a quantum manner. It doesn't have the capability of doing these things of self-realization on its own. So we need all other layers. We shouldn't let it, we should allow it to stay as bodies and not become sheets of ignorance. So we have to keep working every single day, and purifying ourselves so that it remains pure and pristine as bodies. And yes, that is true.
Yeah, so that gap is actually only a gap to our physical eyes on the physical body, but there's actually could be union between God and man through the non-physical.
That's another way to look at it. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that perspective.
And thank you. Brilliant talk. I've been interested in all this stuff for a long time, neuroplasticity and all the things you've talked about. So very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And surprisingly, sorry, go ahead, and then I will.
No, just on your slide, the diagram of quantum self, I just wanted to understand a little bit more. You have put few things, creativity, and second one I don't understand. And what do you mean by tangled hierarchy?
So I didn't want to bring in those concepts at all, because they're all concepts of physics that will make this, I need a lot more time. It just means, I think I mentioned in one sentence. So in everyday life, there is a simple hierarchy, meaning there is a boss and everybody else is subordinate, right? And that doesn't give room for much growth at all. But when you are acting out of your creative self, like, for example, all of us, I think all of us are being our quantum selves. We are doing all of this with the intention of doing the right thing and helping the world, right? So I think we are behaving in a quantum self. So what happens then? There is no boss, there is no subordinate. I depend on you, you depend on me. I learn from you, I learn from Vlatka, I learn from Brother Julius, each one. So that is tangled hierarchy, which means interdependence, equal interdependence. So I'm simplifying it, but it's much more complicated than that.
No, good. Thank you. That helps.
You're welcome. So I was going back to, before I forget, quantum science has proof for vital energy too. Before I forget, let me say this. 1 second, Rama. Let me say this because I feel like I might forget, and I don't want to forget this thought. So there is proof for vital energy, and there are ways to measure vital energy. I didn't include it in my talk, but what I do want to say is one of the ways to measure this is Kirlian photography. And if people have read Tapovanam, they will remember that there is this Russian-American scientist who comes to, he hears that there is this guru in India who has a lot of powers, and he wants to come. He wants to see, is he really that powerful? Does he really have that much of energy? So they had discovered the Kirlian photograph, which takes pictures of vital energy. And when they took, if they take pictures of you or me, it would probably be the energy, or the field would be probably seen as a purple, not a purple, pink haze or red haze or something around our body, our physical body, the aura. We're talking about the aura. But for Swami, it was pink, and pink is the color of love. It was pink, and it spread so far and wide. It included people that were there at Prashanti Nilayam, and so there is again proof for that as well, of vital bodies and vital body or vital energy measurements too. All right, Rama.
Yeah, it's the same what I wanted to say.
Oh,
So
sorry.
when no, not about Kirlian photography though. The love, so the interconnection between us will be more ease when that love flows to each other from heart to heart. When we think from our mind space, it is difficult and complicated. And it is true with most of us, because we are in that. But for Swami, who is that pure love, why we are able to connect to the Swami or to the ascended master so easily, because their love is they are that love, and that love is flowing from them to all. That is why we are able to feel that ease, that peace when we are near to them. So that is what we need to develop within ourselves. Sorry.
Yes, very true. Very true. So I will just answer. There were a couple of things on the chat. Someone wanted to know where I'm learning, what program, etc. I don't mind saying my preceptor and my guru, and I hold such high regard for him, is Dr. Amit Goswami. He's a quantum physicist, and now he calls himself a consciousness researcher, which is what he's been doing while he was in the US. For the last, I think since 1970s, he's been working on consciousness. And then he's now retired, and his goal is to raise our awareness, make us realize our goal, make us happier, etc. So he started the PhD program and master's program, and he has various other programs too. And this has its affiliation with the UGC recognized University of Technology, Jaipur. And this is where I'm studying. There are several universities. I shouldn't say there are many. There are some universities that provide the option for quantum studies. University of Hawaii is one of them, and I haven't paid attention to other places in other countries at all. But this is somebody that I met, and this was again synchronicity. That's another story. Otherwise, I'll be telling stories forever. I should say how many synchronous things happen, and Swami leads me to all these, and it's his amazing grace. Yeah, I mean, you have my number on the WhatsApp group. If you needed more details, I'll be happy to share it. And Brother Saha, I know you're there. Thank you. If you think I did something right, that means a lot to me. But I just wanted to know what your thoughts were.
Sister Sandhya, it was amazing. It just flew right through you with such ease and grace, and it was clear. It spoke, and I think it really helps. A lot of us are battling that conflict of science and spirituality, and there shouldn't be any conflict. The only way that I see this is not that science validates, but I see more like science now accepts it. So because it's the undeniable truth. But finally, with the growth of quantum physics, a lot more coming in, and mainstream scientists also are now forced to think in these lines. So I think your talk today really helped for the ones who are especially struggling to make that quantum leap that's necessary right now to go from the mind to the heart, and to not to ignore one, but to harmonize the two. So I think in your talk today, that harmony between the mind and the heart came through very, very well. So my gratitude to you for equipping the team with that vital piece of information that most of us need. So I think it was beautiful and so timely. I enjoyed it.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bless you.
Thank
Dr.
you.
Sandhya, this is Ranga from Dubai.
Sairam.
The vibes I get whenever you speak. You have a very heterogeneous audience. People with different temperaments, different the levels of awareness and consciousness. But you always operate from a heart space. Whenever you reply, you never, though you have an answer for everything, you always give give the benefit of doubt and opinion to the person who is asking the question, and you always interact with everyone from a heart space, and you are that example for all of us to emulate. Thank you so much for being like that. Bless you.
Oh my God, that's you're being so generous, Brother Ranga. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yes, feeling the same, Sandhya.
I told you we are sharing it. This is,
Yeah.
oh, I love it. I set my alarm at 3:30 in the morning so I can get up. And I wait to have this conversation and this link with all of you. And then at 6 o'clock, I scramble to get ready. And then I leave for work at 6:30. So Swami's grace is immense.
Yeah, all this coming from the point of love you wanted to share with all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other last thoughts?
I want just to say that it was so warm and loving and useful in the same time. Thank you for the bottom of my heart.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brother Julius, I think I'm done.
For today, just for today.
All again. Thank you so much for this beautiful presentation, sharing from your heart about the quantum space. The quantum energy is really coming big time. Yeah, the first time I got connected to it was quantum gazing, then there's quantum healing, there's quantum hypnosis, now there's quantum consciousness. Yeah, this is beautiful. We are really going for quantum extension.
Finally. Okay.
Thank you for allowing me to share. Thank you, Brother Julius. Thank you. You have been an inspiration. How many examples could I give, right? Synchronicity, your iceberg. There were so many. There were so many. Immense. Thank you.
Yes. Please share again, because I know, when you first say 20 minutes, I couldn't believe it. I say, no, you're cramping it too much. Spread it out, because I know there is a lot of areas you can expand. And this is really good because you have it all, kind of written down, and it's just a matter of coming together and presenting it. It's really beautiful that it can be done like this. So please do more sessions here. Okay, yeah, it's good to have all to look at all the rivers coming to the same ocean in different ways. This Vijnana Maya Kosha coming in full force. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, brother. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Bless you. Thank you.
All right. This comes to the end of our session, and there are quite a few things we wanted to present, but we will do it tomorrow. Vladka, Sister Vladka has some things for you all also, but we will address it all tomorrow. Okay, Brother Saha, you are going to do the inner child?
Yes, on Sunday. Yes, inner child healing guided meditation. I recommend that to everyone, because we all have wounds that needs healing, and once we do that, it helps our ascension. helps us to understand what we are experiencing. So if you can all join on Sunday, it'll be a guided meditation on how to heal the inner wounds of our inner child. It'll be a fun exercise too. It'll be painful in the beginning to see, but we'll emerge victorious afterwards.
And you're also doing another session, the US.
Yes, that's the same meditation we'll be doing tomorrow at 10:30 p.m. Malaysia time, 6:30 p.m. Dubai time, and 8 p.m. India time. That's tomorrow, the same meditation.
Okay, that would be after our normal session today.
Yes, after the normal session. Yeah.
All right, great.
That means today 8 p.m. India time.
No, tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Friday. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We're doing Friday, and then the same meditation, well, almost the same because I don't have a script for it. It'll be the repeat of that on Sunday.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thank you very much, all of you. Much love and light to all in the whole world. We have entered today to the US shores, and this is calling for a lot of divine Shakti energy to rise. It'd be great if all of us can kind of pray unitedly for more forgiveness and more love, which is really happening. You can see a lot of people seeking for forgiveness in the riots. This is really a call for unconditional love. If we can send more light to those areas, it'd be really good. Yeah. At the same time, maybe also if we can do some group meditation. Yeah, in a group meditation, we can also send light together. All right. Thank you so much. Om Sai Ram.
Om Sai Ram.
Om Sai Ram.
Sai Ram. Om Sai Ram.
Thank you, Sai Ram.
Sai Ram.
Thank you, Sai Ram.
Sai Ram, loving you all so much and blessings.
Sai Ram. Sai Ram.
Sai Ram. Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Sai Ram.
Sai Ram.
Thank you, Sai Ram.